The night of our biggest company celebration, I spotted my missing necklace around the neck of my husband's assistant. That was the moment I stopped pretending not to see. I turned betrayal into spectacle and filed for divorce with a smile. As the mistress vanished and his empire crumbled, I didn't just leave him. The lights in the penthouse closet flickered softly as I ran my fingers along the row of velvet boxes, searching for the necklace. My necklace. A limited edition Louis Vuitton sapphire piece Ethan had gifted me during our last anniversary trip to Italy. It was meant to be the centerpiece for tonight's company celebration banquet. Only it wasn't there. I checked again. Pulled open every drawer. Nothing. Ethan. I called, pressing the phone to my ear. No answer. I tried again. Then again. Still nothing. He always answered. Unless he was with someone. Unless he didn't want to be found. The bitter taste in my mouth reminded me I already knew. But I pushed the thought aside. Maybe he forgot to bring it back from the safe. Maybe he had a surprise planned. After all, tonight was about us. Our company's biggest expansion yet. Clients, investors, media. All eyes on Ethan and me. I left without the necklace. The banquet hall glittered like a dream. Waiters moved swiftly between tables dressed in gold accents. A giant screen flashed the success of our latest acquisition. I smiled graciously as people offered congratulations. My gown was custom, black satin with crystal beading along the neckline, tailored to perfection. I looked every bit the powerful co-founder and CEO's wife. But my fingers kept twitching at my bare collarbone. Then 2 hours into the evening, the murmurs began. Heads turned toward the entrance as Ethan finally arrived. And by his side, her. Her name was Camille. His personal assistant. She wore a champagne-colored slip dress, lips painted cherry red, and around her neck shimmered my necklace. My Louis Vuitton sapphire necklace. I felt the world tilt for a moment. "Mrs. Mercer, is everything all right?" one of the investors asked kindly. I smiled and nodded, eyes never leaving the entrance. Camille clung to Ethan's arm like a child begging for attention, her gaze fluttering nervously over the crowd as though waiting for approval. When her eyes met mine, she looked away quickly. Ethan noticed me then. His smile was casual, like he didn't just walk into a war zone. He kissed my cheek. "Lena, you look stunning tonight." I didn't reply. I stepped forward, my heels clicking like thunder on the polished floor. Everyone watched. "Miss Camille," I said smoothly, "I see you've developed excellent taste." She blinked. "Excuse me. That's a beautiful necklace, Camille," I said loud enough for the surrounding guests to pause. "Louis Vuitton. Limited release. Only 10 ever made." She blinked at me. "Oh, thank you. Isn't it beautiful?" My eyes still locked on hers. "I'm curious. Camille, remind me again, how does a secretary afford a necklace worth more than your yearly salary?" Her face paled. "Oh. It was a gift." Ethan stepped in. "Lena." I looked at Ethan. "Never mind," I said. She blinked in confusion. "What?" "You might as well enjoy it. Because after tonight, it's the last thing you'll be wearing with value." Gasps rippled through the room. Camille was frozen in place. Ethan finally leaned toward me and muttered, "Lena, what are you doing?" "You're making a scene." "No, darling," I smiled. "I'm making a statement." As I turned away, Ethan's fingers brushed my arm. "Lena, what's up? Please." But I was already walking toward the investor circle, greeting them like nothing happened. The necklace was gone. So was the last sliver of doubt. And tonight, everyone would leave with something. Everyone but him. The celebration lingered long past midnight, but I left before the final champagne toast. I had smiled enough. Played the part long enough. Worn the betrayal like high fashion. Darren drove me home while Ethan stayed behind to play the charming host, his hand still tethered to Camille's wrist like a leash neither of them had the shame to hide. I didn't care anymore. Not about the stares, not about the whispers, and definitely not about the excuses I knew he was rehearsing in his mind. I didn't even look back when I left. But the next morning the bill returned. A pink sticker. It was stuck to the side of the leather dashboard, just barely visible beneath the polished surface of the passenger seat in Ethan's Mercedes. A cartoon bear with a glitter heart. The kind of sticker no woman over 12 would touch. Except maybe one desperately trying to mark territory. I found it while I was getting into the car expecting Darren to drive. But he was stuck in traffic and Ethan was at the driver's seat. I slid into the front seat and immediately froze. Reeked of cheap perfume. Fruity. Sweet. Insistent. The kind Camille would wear. I stared at the sticker and slowly pressed my nail underneath it, peeling it off as rage simmered just beneath my skin. I had allowed him his little indulgence last night. Played civil. Elegant. But this was a declaration. The passenger seat, my seat, now bore her scent, her charm, and her claim. Ethan still dressed immaculately in his white shirt and navy jacket, sleeves rolled up just enough to show off the watch I gifted him for our 4th company milestone. He didn't even notice the silence. "I'm glad you let Darren leave early. He's been working too hard lately," Ethan said easily, glancing at me. "You looked incredible last night, by the way." I didn't respond. My fingers drummed against the center console once before stilling. Then casually I asked, "How long has she been riding here?" He blinked. "Who?" "Camille." His brows furrowed. She rides with me sometimes for meetings. Meetings that smell like synthetic peaches and leave cartoon stickers on my leather?" I asked with a smile that didn't touch my eyes. Ethan opened his mouth, then paused. "Lena, don't do this. Don't twist things." "I'm not twisting anything." I leaned back in the seat and looked at him calmly. "I'm just seeing it clearly." The car fell into a tense silence until his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, froze for half a second, then answered, "Yeah." His tone softened. "No, don't cry. Just stay there, all right?" When he hung up, he looked at me with that same tired expression. The one he used when I brought up business fatigue or missed dinners. That look that said, "You're being emotional. Please just stop." "Lena, Camille's really shaken after last night. Some of the sales girls cornered her and made jokes. She's new and..." I turned to him fully. "You're going to leave me here and go to her?" He looked torn, guilty. "Just for a bit. She's alone. You know how vicious this world is. She doesn't have the armor you have." I laughed, but it came out dry and hollow. "The armor I have was forged because of people like you." "Lena, do you even care if I leave?" I asked quietly, calmly. No screaming. No tears. Just the truth. Ethan looked at me and for a moment I just hoped he would say something real. But his mouth stayed shut. His silence was my answer. I reached for the door handle. "Wait," he began, but I was already stepping out. I turned once before closing the door. "I hope you're prepared, Ethan. Because I gave you 1,000 chances in silence. This is the last one you'll get in person." The door shut with finality. I didn't wait for Darren this time. I called someone else. Someone who always answered day or night. "Naomi," I said when she picked up. "Get the lawyer. It's time." There were no tears. Just purpose. This time I wasn't standing in the wreckage waiting to be saved. I was lighting the match. By Monday the office was buzzing with gossip. Whispers followed me down every corridor, half-polite smiles concealing the truth everyone already knew. Ethan Mercer's affair wasn't a rumor anymore. It was a fact. And they were all waiting to see if I would still wear my wedding ring. I didn't. Not today. I had a long internal meeting scheduled that morning. Numbers, strategy, expansion. It should have thrilled me. But all I could focus on was the empty seat across from mine in the boardroom, the one Ethan usually occupied. He didn't show. Instead, he waited until just after lunch to appear in my office. "Do you have a minute?" he asked, standing in the doorway like a guest instead of my husband. I didn't look up from my laptop. "Make it quick." He stepped inside, but not alone. Camille trailed behind him, eyes red-rimmed, makeup barely holding. The audacity of it stunned me. I closed my laptop and slowly lifted my eyes. "Is this a performance review or a couples counseling session?" Ethan ignored the jab. "There's been talk around the office. About Camille." "Yes," I said flatly, "there has. I need you to issue a clarification to the team. Let them know she hasn't done anything wrong." A laugh slipped out before I could stop it. "You want me to protect her?" He nodded. "You're vice president. You carry more weight than anyone here. If you defend her, the rest will fall in line." I stared at him for a long moment, then got up slowly, heels tapping across the hardwood as I walked to the window, arms crossed. "Do you remember how many nights I stayed here with you?" I asked. "How many weekends we skipped vacations to run this place?" He didn't answer. This company is our child, Ethan. I bled for it. And now you want me to shield the woman who sat on my side of the car and wore my necklace like it was hers. Camille shifted uneasily behind him. Mrs. Mercer, I didn't mean to cause trouble. I turned sharply. You didn't cause trouble, Camille. You are the trouble. Her face flushed with humiliation. Ethan stepped forward. Lena, don't do this here. This is about business. No, I said, voice cold. This is about consequences. He exhaled, clearly frustrated. You used to be reasonable. Now you're cruel. Harsh. My mouth curled into a bitter smile. No, Ethan. I'm just done. I moved back to my desk and picked up the call button. Naomi, escort Mr. Mercer and Ms. Delaney out of my office. Camille began to tear up. Ethan hesitated. So that's it? You're just going to turn the company against her? I looked at him with a gaze so sharp it could cut diamonds. Justice, Ethan, doesn't need to be commanded. It reveals itself. As they were ushered out, I sat back down and opened my laptop. My hand hovered for a moment over the trackpad before opening the folder Naomi and I had started last week. Divorce, Phase 1. It contained the draft of the joint asset breakdown, silent investor statements, and personal affidavits for work contribution. I wasn't going to just walk away, I was going to walk away whole. And Ethan would get exactly what he gave me. An empty seat, a cold bed, and a company half a size smaller than the one we built together. That afternoon, the employees who had come to their senses after the banquet began speaking louder. Camille's name was whispered in bitter tones. She was the kind of woman everyone recognized too late, the one who smiled shyly while replacing another woman's life. I said nothing, issued no clarifications, just let the storm gather its own strength, because sometimes silence is sharper than any speech. And mine had become a blade. My birthday fell on a Thursday. It used to be a date Ethan never forgot. Dinners under candlelight, surprise vacations, handwritten letters on hotel stationery. But this year I didn't receive a card. Not even a text. I didn't need one. This year the gift was mine to give. The celebration was quiet. Just close friends and family at the private dining room of the Carlton Club. Naomi handled the arrangements with her usual efficiency, and I spent most of the afternoon with Ethan's parents, who adored me as their own daughter. His mother held my hand with a warm smile. Lena, Ethan's always been difficult when work gets stressful. Don't let it harden you. I nodded, offering a tight-lipped smile. What could I say? That their son was spiraling into delusion with a girl who wore pink stickers in my perfume? That he left me on the side of the road to chase after her tears? I sipped my wine instead. Just as dessert was being served, the doors opened. And in walked Ethan. Camille was right behind him, dressed like she thought she belonged there. His mother's smile dropped. His father blinked in confusion. Who is this young lady? His mother asked. I placed my napkin on the table and leaned back. That's Camille Delaney. Ethan's new project. The room froze. Lena, Ethan began, trying to keep his tone calm. I brought Camille here to clear the air. This is a good time, right? You thought my birthday would be a good time to parade your mistress in front of your family? I asked, my voice like silk hiding a blade. Camille fidgeted, then stepped forward with a box. I bought this for you, Vice President Mercer. I hope you can forgive me. I didn't even look at the box. I smacked it off her hands, the contents scattering across the floor with a loud crash. Gasps. Silverware clinking against plates. That's for sleeping with my husband, I said flatly. Ethan's father stood, mouth wide open. What? I didn't give Ethan time to lie. Instead, I pulled out my phone, opened my email, and tapped a folder marked evidence. One by one, I airdropped the images to the giant projection screen we'd set up earlier for a birthday photo montage. Photos filled the screen. Him, Camille, a hotel room, a bed, a tangle of limbs and low lighting. The timestamps didn't lie. Ethan lunged forward. Lena, turn it off. I clicked again. The video played. Low moans. His voice calling her name. Her voice calling his. And then, unbelievably, him saying my name. His mother dropped her fork. His father was red with shame. Camille's face drained of color. I calmly pulled a USB from my purse and placed it on the table. Backups. In case anyone wants to deny what they just saw. Ethan's fists clenched at his sides. You planned this? Yes, I said, looking him dead in the eye. Right after you chose her over me. Camille turned to him panicked. You said you were divorced. Ethan's voice cracked. Lena, I didn't. This isn't. I cut him off. Reached into my bag again and this time pulled out a crisp document. Here, I said, throwing the signed divorce papers on the table in front of him. You don't have to lie anymore. Just sign. His hand trembled. You don't mean this. Oh, I said with a laugh, but I do. You're overreacting. I leaned closer, voice soft and clear. You humiliated me. In my company. In front of my employees. In front of my family. And now in front of yours. I'm not overreacting, Ethan. I stood. I'm responding. Camille fled the room in tears. Ethan's mother quietly began to cry. His father stood up, walked behind Ethan and without hesitation, slapped the back of his head. You fool. Naomi walked to my side and handed me my coat. I didn't even look back as I walked out. Because some women cry on their birthdays. But I left the mess behind with a signature and a smile. 2 days passed. I expected silence, but Ethan showed up at the office like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't just been publicly shamed at my birthday dinner. Like there wasn't a USB floating around with his infidelity on display. He looked worn out, eyes bloodshot, jaw unshaven. But his arrogance hadn't left. Lena, he said, standing in my office doorway again like he was entitled to the space. We need to talk. I didn't stop typing. I think you said enough with your body language. I didn't sleep with her. I looked up. That's not what the video shows. I was drunk, he said quickly, stepping inside. I don't even remember what happened. She helped me to my hotel room. Thought it was you. I kept calling your name. I stood slowly. So let me get this straight. You mistook a 23-year-old girl with baby pink perfume and a fake Cartier bracelet for your wife of 7 years. His jaw flexed. I didn't know what I was doing. Maybe not then, I said, but you sure as hell knew when you took her to meetings. When you let her sit in my seat. When you watched her wear my necklace. He opened his mouth but I didn't let him speak. Ethan, I'm not mad about the video. That just confirmed what I already knew. I'm mad that you didn't even have the spine to hide it better. Just then Naomi knocked. I'm sorry, she said, but Miss Delaney is here. Perfect. Let her in. Camille walked in with her usual wide, watery eyes, this time brimming with fresh tears. Her voice was barely above a whisper. Mr. Mercer, I need to talk to you alone. You can speak freely, I said, arms crossed. We're not keeping secrets anymore. Camille hesitated, then looked at Ethan, then me. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. That night you were drunk. I helped you to bed. I tried to leave. But, I asked. But you held on to me, she whispered, face reddening. You said my name at first and then, you started saying hers. She glanced at me. I didn't know what to do. You didn't want to let go. Ethan was frozen, his face slowly draining of color. I kept saying no, Camille continued, but, you just kept kissing me. I didn't know if you knew who I was. I tilted my head. And now? I think you thought I was her, she said softly. And that night I let you believe it. Ethan stepped back, eyes wide. No, that's not what happened. Camille turned toward him, tears streaking her face now. You were using me, Ethan. Pretending I was her. You never even looked at me properly unless I smiled like her, wore my hair like her. He turned to me. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I just wanted to say I'm sorry. I don't want to do this anymore. And with that she walked out. The door clicked shut. I stood there, heart hollow. Ethan looked broken, hands in his hair, disbelief carved into every inch of his face. Lena, please. I swear to you, I didn't mean to betray you like that. I didn't even realize I was. I raised a hand. You didn't just betray me, I said. You betrayed yourself. You took everything we built together and tried to replace it with nostalgia. With a girl who looked like I did when we started. He stared at me, stunned. I grew up, Ethan. I got stronger. And instead of growing with me, you went and found a replica of who I used to be. He sat down, deflated. I miss that version of us. I don't, I said. I miss who we could have become. But you never gave us the chance. He looked at the divorce papers still sitting in the corner of my desk. I'm not signing those, he said softly. Then I'll see you in court. I walked to the door, opened it and waited for him to leave. But before he stepped out, he turned one last time. I never stopped loving you, Lena. I gave him a tired smile. Then you should have fought for me before I stopped loving you back. You're not going to believe this, Naomi said, tossing her heels off as she curled into the armchair beside my sofa. I went through Camille's old social media accounts. I was already exhausted from the day. Divorce paperwork revisions, finance meetings, and a marketing crisis that required me to fix something Ethan promised he'd handle. I didn't have the energy for drama. Still, something in her voice made me pause. Naomi turned her phone toward me. I compared this photo, she said, swiping, to your headshot from 5 years ago. Look at the jawline. Look at the eyes. Hell, even the dimple placement. I stared. The resemblance was uncomfortable. Young Lena. Back when I was fresh out of business school with soft features, a rounder face, long curls I hadn't chopped off yet in favor of practicality. The kind of woman who still believed love was enough. And Camille? She looked like a filtered version of that girl. I stared at the screen, nausea slowly curling in my gut. Naomi tapped the phone. He's not in love with her, Lena. He's in love with a time machine. She's just a living, breathing undo button. I stood and walked to the window. The city skyline blinked back at me, tall and full of ambition, like the life I built without ever knowing how replaceable I'd become in Ethan's eyes. No wonder he was always so protective of her. No wonder he stared at her like she was something sacred. He was me. Not now, but me before. Before I got hardened by late nights and broken promises. Before I raced a company while Ethan chased shiny distractions. Before I learned that love can rot from the inside quietly. Do you think he planned it? I whispered. Naomi shook her head. He didn't have to. Men like him don't plan. They just drift toward what feels familiar. Familiar. That was the word. Not love. Not connection. Just familiarity. Like a ghost of the woman he once adored, repackaged into someone who still laughed at his jokes and looked at him like he hung the stars. God, I muttered. He wasn't cheating with her because she was better. He was cheating because she was less. Naomi was silent for a moment. What are you going to do now? I turned back toward her. I'm going to finish the divorce. Quietly. I've had my public scenes. I don't need another. I don't want pity, I want my life back. She nodded. And Ethan, she asked. He'll realize too late that he was trying to recreate something he already had, I said. But nostalgia doesn't love you back. And neither will I. We clinked glasses, a quiet toast to freedom, and I felt the knot in my chest loosen just a little. That night, I dreamt of myself, 5 years younger, walking away from a man who hadn't realized yet that he would never find someone who loved him the way I did. And this time I didn't turn around. The week after Camille's apology, she disappeared. Not in the dramatic storming out of the office sense. Truly vanished. Her phone was disconnected. Her desk was cleared out without notice. The HR team said she never submitted a resignation letter, and security reported that her badge was used one final time around midnight, hours after the last employee had left. No forwarding address. No goodbye. Just gone. The rumors spread fast. Some said Ethan fired her quietly, trying to salvage what little dignity he had left. Others believed she fled before more evidence surfaced, fearing the legal storm headed her way. But I knew better. Camille didn't run from the company. She ran from him. And Ethan? He unraveled. First came the missed meetings. Then the angry outbursts and conference calls. Finally, he stopped coming to the office altogether. Clients called me now. Investors checked my opinion. The staff no longer referred to Ethan as the voice of the company. He became a cautionary tale. Naomi forwarded me an internal memo he sent to a few execs in a desperate attempt to regain control. I will personally handle all matters regarding leadership visibility and investor alignment. It was laughable. Because leadership doesn't come from a title. Comes from trust. And his was gone. One afternoon I passed by his private office and found the door cracked open. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity is cruel. He was sitting alone, slumped behind his desk, tie undone, hair uncombed. His face was buried in his hands, and beside him sat a framed photo of the two of us from our early years, when we could barely afford furniture but still believed we could conquer the world together. I didn't feel sympathy. I felt relief. He built the prison. He chose the cell. And I walked out the front gate. That evening, Naomi and I met at our favorite rooftop wine bar. She leaned across the table, whispering with glee. Did you hear? Ethan filed a police report. I raised a brow. About Camille? Yep. Said she stole company files. Breached confidentiality. Let me guess, I said, sipping. There's no proof. He grinned. Of course not. But the moment he realized she took all his private emails and backups with her, he panicked. So now he's trying to make her the villain, I said. Naomi shrugged. Typical. She went from his fantasy to his liability in one heartbeat. I looked out across the skyline, lights flickering like the pulse of the city. You know what's funny? I murmured. What? I think he really believed he could keep both worlds. That he could humiliate me publicly, indulge in his little nostalgia trip, and I'd still be waiting here, strong, silent, unshakable. Naomi leaned back. But you weren't. No, I said. I was preparing my exit the moment he gave someone else what used to be mine. She raised her glass. To exits. We clinked them together. To clean ones, I added. And ones they never see coming. Ethan may have lost Camille. But what he really lost was me. And unlike her, I didn't disappear. I thrived. It ended on a Tuesday. Not with a bang or a breakdown. But with a signature. The judge's gavel echoed softly through the courtroom, marking the legal end of a marriage that had unraveled long before it was declared over. Congratulations, Miss Blake, my lawyer whispered with a gentle nudge. You're free. Free. That word didn't feel loud or wild. It felt quiet, steady, like a final breath after holding it too long underwater. Ethan didn't say anything when we left the courtroom. He just stood there watching as I walked out without a second glance. I'd worn a simple navy pantsuit. No makeup. No jewelry. Not even the wedding ring I'd stopped recognizing months ago. Meanwhile, his suit looked slightly too big, like he'd shrunk under the weight of everything he lost but hadn't processed yet. He tried calling a few times afterward. I never answered. Instead, I spent the weeks following the divorce doing the things I'd been too exhausted, too heartbroken, or too loyal to do before. I traveled to Lisbon with Naomi for a 3-day art festival. I slept in past 10 a.m. without guilt. I laughed over wine with new investors who respected me not as someone's wife, but as the woman who saved the company from a PR nightmare and an internal collapse. At the next board meeting, they offered me full control. Officially. No co-CEO. No shared title. Just me. Lena Blake, sole founder. The last remnants of Ethan Mercer were stripped from the company. His name removed from our core strategy documents, his permissions locked out of the server, his executive access deactivated without ceremony. Somewhere in that same week, his parents invited me over for tea. Thank you for not turning it into a scandal, his mother said gently. I don't think he deserved that grace. But I'm grateful you gave it. He didn't deserve the marriage either, I replied with a smile, but I gave him that too. She nodded, eyes watery. I didn't stay long. But on my way out, I noticed something strange. An old photo of Ethan and me was still framed in their entryway. Not out of delusion, I don't think, but out of mourning. Later that evening, I stood in front of the same mirror I used to fix my hair before Ethan's board meetings. My reflection looked different now. Not because I changed my style or cut my hair or wore bolder lipstick, but because my eyes had come back to life. They were no longer scanning rooms for approval. No longer waiting for someone to choose me over ambition or youth or fantasy. They were steady. That night, Naomi sent me a photo from one of our earliest pitch meetings years ago. Ethan and I were standing side by side, arms crossed, ambitious and in sync. He captioned it. You didn't lose anything. You outgrew everything. And she was right. I didn't lose my marriage. I left it. I didn't lose my company. I took it back. And as for Ethan, I didn't lose him either. I just finally stopped waiting for the version of him that only existed in my memory. It's strange, the silence that follows a war. No more lawyers. No more slammed doors. No more carefully curated apologies that were really just manipulations dressed in regret. Just quiet. Beautiful, absolute, soul-soothing quiet. I didn't expect it to feel this good. It started in the little things. The way my coffee finally tasted like coffee again, not like tension. The way my morning jogs felt lighter. The way the air moved through my lungs without the weight of someone else's chaos pressing down on my chest. I thought healing would be dramatic. But instead it was slow and ordinary. And maybe that's what made it feel so extraordinary. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, I moved into a new apartment. Not a penthouse. Not a cold, steel and glass mausoleum with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city I used to try to impress. No, this was different. It was warm. Earth tones. Bookcases. A tiny espresso machine I didn't need but loved. A balcony covered in mismatched plants and overwatered flowers. A home that didn't demand to be shown off. It just existed to hold me gently. Naomi helped me unpack. "You know what I love about this place?" she asked, curling up on my couch with a glass of wine and a box of takeout. "It doesn't feel like a showroom?" I offered. "Exactly," she said. "It finally feels like you." I looked around. He was right. There were photos on the shelves that didn't need to be curated. A painting I bought from a street artist in Lisbon. A chipped ceramic bowl that made me smile every time I saw it because it reminded me that not everything had to be perfect to be valuable. This was mine. All of it. No one else's name on the deed. No one else's perfume on the pillows. No one else's ambition living in the walls. Just me. I started laughing again. That was the first thing people noticed. At a team dinner, someone cracked a joke and I laughed without covering my mouth, without calculating if Ethan would look over disapprovingly because I wasn't keeping composure in front of clients. "You've changed," someone told me. "No," I said. "I just came back to life." The truth was, I hadn't realized how muted I had become. How often I censored my joy to match someone else's mood. How I dimmed myself out of habit. Now the light was back. And I wasn't sorry for it. I wore red lipstick again. I danced at rooftop parties. I said no to things I didn't want and yes to things that made absolutely no sense except for the fact that they made me smile. And in the middle of all that peace and laughter, love snuck in again. But this time it didn't kick down the door or arrive with roses and rehearsed lines. It showed up quietly, with paint on his hands and stories about the sea. I met Owen at a gallery opening. He wasn't the featured artist. He wasn't even trying to sell anything. He was just standing in the back wearing a navy sweater with holes in the sleeves and sipping orange wine like he didn't notice he didn't fit in. We talked for 2 hours. He didn't know who I was. Didn't recognize my name. Didn't care about the headlines. Didn't once mention Ethan or the scandal or the company. When I finally told him my name, full name, he blinked and said, "You sound like the villain in a spy novel." I laughed so hard I snorted. He grinned. "That's better." "Better than what?" "Better than the way you said your name. Like it was something heavy." And just like that, a stranger made me feel weightless. Owen didn't ask me to shrink. Didn't flinch when I talked about work or strategy or ambition. He didn't try to match my power, he just held space for it. "I think you're kind of terrifying," he said one night while we sat on my balcony under a sky that actually had stars for once. But in the best way. I raised an eyebrow. "Terrifying? You walk into a room and no one breathes until you've spoken." I tilted my head. "That doesn't scare you?" He shrugged. "You're not mine to control. You're just someone I get to witness." I stared at him for a long time. No one had ever said that to me before. Ethan always said I was too much. Owen said, "You're exactly as you should be." There was a moment one late afternoon in March, when I realized I had finally arrived. I was sitting at my desk, not at the office but at home. There was jazz playing in the background. A candle flickering. An untouched cup of tea beside my laptop. My inbox was full but none of it felt like a noose around my neck. Owen came up behind me, wrapped his arms around my waist and kissed the top of my head. "You still with me?" he asked. "Always," I said. Not because I had to be, but because I wanted to be. One day Ethan texted. Just a single message. "Do you ever think about us?" I stared at it for a full minute before typing back. Only when I need a reason to smile at how far I've come. I didn't hear from him again. Naomi and I started a tradition. Saturday mornings at the flower market. We'd walk the rows, hands full of sunflowers and peonies and coffee cups too hot to hold, laughing about nothing. Sometimes people still looked at me like I was a headline, not a person. But those looks didn't stick anymore. I wasn't a story someone else wrote. I was the author now. And I was writing something beautiful. Not dramatic. Not bitter. Just whole. Owen asked me to move in with him on a rainy Tuesday while we were cooking barefoot in his kitchen. He didn't make a speech. He just said, "I think we laugh more when we're in the same place. That feels like reason enough." It was. We didn't talk about forever. We talked about right now. And that was more than enough. At the company's 5-year anniversary gala, I stood on the stage, looking out at the people who helped build something remarkable from the rubble. Growth doesn't always look like winning, I told the crowd. Sometimes it looks like walking away. Sometimes it looks like starting over with your head held high, your heart cracked open and your hands ready to rebuild. That's what we did. And look at us now. The room erupted in applause. As I stepped down from the podium, Naomi hugged me tight. "You're glowing," she said into my ear. Like aggressively glowing. I laughed. "Don't tell anyone. I might be happy." "God forbid," she whispered with mock horror. And I was happy. Not the fleeting kind, not the performative kind. But the deep, bone-level kind of happiness that comes from choosing yourself over and over again. From saying, "This is my life. I built it. And I get to live it without apology." From waking up every morning and not wondering if someone else's mood would dictate the direction of your day. From knowing that the necklace he gave her? It didn't matter. Because I walked away with the vault, the keys, and the entire damn building. Now I laugh loud. Now I sleep well. Now I love freely and work boldly and kiss Owen in the middle of the street without caring who's watching. This is my empire. And no one will wear it better than me.